If you're anything like me, you've been glued to the screen lately, watching the Dales descend into their usual beautiful chaos. But amidst the family feuds and the Woolpack gossip, there is one storyline that has completely taken me by surprise. It's the kind of twist that makes you shout at the TV, half in frustration and half in absolute delight. I'm talking, of course, about Sarah Sugden. We've watched this girl grow up. We've cried with her through the terrifying health battles, we've watched her navigate the impossible dynamic of being part Dingle, part Sugden, and we've seen her try to find her footing as a young woman in a village that seems determined to chew people up. She's usually the sensible one, or at least, the one with the sharpest survival instincts. But this situation with Cammy, this is a curveball I don't think any of us saw coming, and honestly, I am living for the drama of it all. The girl who just wants to live. To understand why this potential romance with Cammy is so shocking, we have to look at who Sarah is right now. Think back to everything she has survived. The heart transplant, the genetic illness scares, the constant worry that her time might be shorter than everyone else's. When you live with that kind of shadow hanging over you, it changes how you love. It changes how you take risks. For a long time, Sarah has been guarded. She's had her rebellious phases, remember the drugs? The bad influences? But those always felt like a cry for help or a desperate need to feel control. This thing with Cammy feels different. It feels emotional. It feels like she's tired of being the sick girl or the sensible girl and just wants to be the girl who gets swept off her feet. But is Cammy really the person to do the sweeping? The Cammy factor, disaster or destiny? Let's be real for a second. Cammy is not exactly the safe choice. If Sarah were bringing home a nice, boring accountant, we'd all be happy for her, but we'd also be reaching for the remote to change the channel. Cammy brings that edge. There is a tension there that is undeniable. But up until recently, it seemed like Sarah was dead set against him. She saw the red flags. She heard the warnings from her family, and you know the Dingles love to give a warning. She seemed to have her head screwed on straight, keeping him at arm's length. So what changed? That's the million-dollar question. Why the sudden reversal? I think it comes down to vulnerability. We've seen cracks in Cammy's armor lately, glimpses of a person who is misunderstood, or perhaps someone who is just as damaged as Sarah feels on the inside. There is something incredibly seductive about the idea of fixing someone, or being the only person who truly understands them. When Sarah looks at Cammy now, I don't think she sees the trouble everyone else sees. I think she sees a mirror. She sees someone who feels like an outsider, and that connection is more powerful than any lecture Charity could ever give her. The head versus the heart. This is the classic soap dilemma, isn't it? And it's why we keep tuning in. We are watching a battle between Sarah's head and her heart play out in real time. The head says, "Run. He's complicated. He's messy. He's going to bring drama to your door that you don't need. You have your health to think about, you have your future." The heart says, "He makes you feel alive." And let's be honest, haven't we all been there? Maybe not in a dramatic Yorkshire village, but we've all had that moment where we looked at someone we knew wasn't perfect on paper, but the chemistry was just too loud to ignore. It makes Sarah so relatable right now. She's terrified of making a mistake, but she's even more terrified of missing out on something that could be real. The family fallout, because it's never just about the couple. You cannot talk about Sarah Sugden without talking about the protective circle of fire that surrounds her. Can you imagine the family dinner where she announces she's giving Cammy a real shot? Charity. She will hit the roof. Charity loves Sarah fiercely, but her version of protection often looks like control. She will see Cammy as a threat, plain and simple. Expect screaming matches in the pub. Kane. The stare alone would be enough to make most men leave the country. If Sarah chooses Cammy, Cammy better have a death wish or a heart of steel, because crossing the Dingle patriarch is not a hobby, it's a hazard. The village, the gossip mill will be working overtime. But here is the twist. What if the family is wrong? What if Sarah is the one person who can actually bring out the best in Cammy? Watching Sarah stand up to her family for the sake of love would be a massive character moment for her. It would mark her transition from a child they protect to a woman who makes her own choices, even the risky ones. Why we are secretly rooting for the chaos. I'll admit it, part of me wants her to stay safe, but a bigger part of me, I want to see this romance catch fire. Safe is boring. Safe doesn't give us those butterflies. We want to see the passion. We want to see the us against the world trope. There is something so satisfying about a couple that everyone doubts proving the world wrong. If Sarah chooses Cammy, it's a declaration that she is choosing excitement over safety. It's a messy choice, sure. It might even be a disastrous one, but it's her choice. And after everything she has been through, doesn't she deserve the right to make a few glorious mistakes? What happens next? If the writers go down this road, we are in for a roller coaster. I'm predicting secret meetups, misunderstood texts, a public breakup followed by a passionate reconciliation in the rain. It's Emmerdale. It has to be raining. And eventually, a standoff with the family. But ultimately, this storyline asks a question we all face. Is it better to love safely or to love bravely? Sarah seems to be leaning toward bravely. And while I'm worried for her heart, I'm also cheering her on. She's showing us that despite the fear, despite the past, and despite the odds, she's still willing to jump. I need to know what you think. This is the part where I turn it over to you because I am torn. Are you team safe, thinking Sarah needs to run for the hills and focus on herself? Or are you team chaos, hoping she takes the plunge with Cammy and shakes up the village? Let me know in the comments. Let's argue colately about whether this is a romance for the ages or a train wreck waiting to happen. I'll be reading every single one.